Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Celtics Chronicle. As usual, I'm your boy Adam Taylor, and as usual, I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's poppin', Billy?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
So yesterday we put out a video around Trey Murphy and the potential for the Celtics to trade for him. We discussed the fact that it would most likely need to be a Jaylen Brown trade because why would New Orleans accept less on arguably their best trade asset? Today we're playing devil's advocate. So Billy come up with an idea where it's what if the Celtics just stand pat, they fill a few gaps around the edges and they just run it back with the roster that they have and focus on staying healthy and building around a healthy Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So Billy, I want to give you the floor just to put out this full idea and then we'll dive in, we'll dissect and we'll do what we do.
Yeah, so basically, I just kind of want to start off with like good being the enemy of great, where it's like this is a new era of the NBA, something we haven't seen before. 8 different champions in 8 different years. And it really is shooting variance, it's health. It's basically if you just have a chance to be in that final four, you have a chance at the championship if the matchups and luck and everything goes kind of your way. And I'm wondering if that's what Brad's kind of thinking here, because if you have Jaylen, you have Jason, and even if you have Joe as coach, you have a floor of a 50-55 win team, which means you're in the game, especially with the Eastern Conference. So why wouldn't he want to just stand pat, keep what he has, maybe add to it if he can around the margins, and go for it like that instead of going all in on a move like, say, a Giannis, where if it doesn't work, you have to completely rebuild and throw everything out?
I think the Giannis stuff is fair, right? Like, I'm with you on not trading for Giannis. I understand that the allure, you're bringing in a guy that's arguably a top 5, top 7 guy. And in reality, what you're doing is you're taking a guy that's like top 15-ish and you're upgrading that position significantly by trading him for Giannis. The issue is Giannis is older. He's got a bigger injury history. You'd have to extend him straight away. So you're committing to more years, not really knowing if he's going to be healthy or how he fits with the system. Last thing you're going to do is trade for Giannis and let him run down this 1 year when you've gave up a Jaylen Brown to make that happen. So you're putting a lot of faith in the what if. I understand the concept of wanting to stand pat in that specific like timeline, right? I'm fine with that. What I would say is, and I'm fine with standing pat with the core of Jason and Jaylen. What I would say is I still think they need to be moves. And I understand good is usually the enemy of great, but to be an NBA champion, you need to be great. And the team that won that championship was in fact great. They did everything well on both sides of the floor. And at times they looked damn near unstoppable. And then since then, it's been a little bit of a downward spiral. The loss against the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, the Tatum injury happened, but it's not like the Celtics were leading the series before the injury. Then you have this absolute complete implosion against the Sixers in the first round. I think that standing pat now would be the definition of insanity. Now, standing pat to me is not making moves to fix the point guard spot, to fix the big man spot, to add some veteran depth to go with some of the young guys. That doesn't necessarily mean go out and trade one of your 2 best players to try and make a big ass swing, but it also doesn't mean run it back exactly as you are.
Yeah, and that's where I'm with this theory about shooting variance and injuries, because you can argue with both of those series that we just mentioned, that Knicks series and the Sixers series, with a little different health luck and a little different shooting, where it's just our shots did not fall, like I said. And it's one of those Kenny Atkinson things. I know he likes to quote, analytically, we're tied in the series. Yeah, but you're not playing anymore, buddy. It's really what happens on the court. It's not just your shot attempts that you should have made this many and didn't. But I do wonder if, like I said, it's just a lot of that is really how random the NBA is now. And that's why we do have 8 different champions in 8 years for the first time in what, a 78-year NBA that we've had.
I think part of it's also down to innovation, though, right? Like, one of the best things about these last 8 years is every team that won played a different way. The NBA is a copycat league. When the Warriors went small and started winning, small ball took over. When teams started going big, more teams started going big. Double big's a little bit more prevalent around the NBA these days. That's fine, and I agree, but I think there's innovation here too. The Warriors play different to the way the Celtics play. The Celtics play different to the way the Thunder play. The Knicks are an amalgamation of multiple teams because they were built to stop the Celtics, but Mike Brown has gave them a completely new lease on life offensively and defensively. So while I do agree that, hey, a bit shot variance goes your way, health goes your way, then you can win. I also think you need to innovate, and trying to run the same system year after year becomes very easy to scheme against because teams know your playbook. They know how you're going to try and generate shots. They know where those shots want to come from. And I think this is why during his postseason presser, Brad Stevens was like, we need to add more rim pressure. We need to add some optionality into the offense because you don't just want to stick to one style. And this is going back to combat sports because it's another area where I'm very comfortable talking. If you look at MMA used to very much be reliant on a base of wrestling or boxing. And then jiu-jitsu came in and dominated. And then a lot of people had Brazilian jiu-jitsu as their base, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. And now people are starting to come in with different bases, different styles, because if you don't keep innovating, it becomes very easy to work out a game plan. It becomes very easy to build counters into that game plan. And teams are smart, man. If you look at the level of talent that's been injected into the NBA over the last 3 or 4 years, the talent coming in is getting better and better, and their basketball IQ is going up and up and up. And I think that while you're right in terms of there's no need to get rid of Jaylen or Jason, there is definitely a need to innovate within the system. And that means adding some guys that do things a little bit differently, which is one of the reasons I've been pushing Colin Sexton as an addition so hard.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty spicy. Yeah, I do like the idea. And it's another trend that we're seeing is like all these teams are playing 2 to 3 guards at a time. And that way you have multiple ball handlers. You're playing at a faster pace. And if you can still control the boards, even playing that many guards, guess what? You're going to be in the finals. Look at the Spurs. They always have 2 guards on the floor, no matter what. Look at the Knicks. They always have at least 2 guards on the floor. You don't have a backcourt with like Derek White and a Jaylen Brown where basically only one guy can dribble up against the pressure if somebody's trapping, or if you guys are really going to be serious about playing that way, we do need to upgrade on the guards. So I would like to see that actually.
I've been out here for a long time. You can go back to find the Celtics blog podcast feed and you can hear me talking about this for years. I am huge on having decision makers at every position on the floor. I want a guy that can pass, dribble, or shoot at every single position, including the 5. And that's really difficult because finding the amount of centers that can fit that mold is finite, and they all come at a very premium, and it's very hard to find one unless you draft one. So having 4 decision makers is the best you're probably going to get with a floor spacing 5 or a dunker spot 5. And that's why I'm like, you need a guard that can pressure the rim, that can kick out, that can make reads when teams pressure, when they trap, when they hedge, doesn't fold when they're playing under pressure coming off the pick and roll. You want forwards that can do things with the rock in their hands. Tatum obviously being elite at that, and Brown having taken jumps over the last few years. Derek White is, for all of his shooting struggles, he's still one of the best decision-making guards in the NBA. He's one of the better defending guards. He's an ultimate glue guy. Gets thrown around a lot. I like to call him a connective tissue. He connects everybody together because the ball never sticks in his hands. He's always looking to make the right read. And then you do need an upgrade on Nemi. I think that Nemi is solid as a backup big. I think what we saw was regular season, you can get by with him as your starting 5 and he's going to produce and play really well. But once the playoffs come and schemes come into play and adjustments, now he's out of his depth. Can he get there? For sure. Do you want to wait for him to get there? No, this team's in championship mode. I think waiting for him to get there is actually part of the problem of this standing pat. But overall, I agree with the idea of like good being the enemy of great, but I think to win a championship, you need to be great. And this team just isn't there right now.
Yeah. And like I said, I just don't know if everything would break our way for that to even be a possibility. I've been really sold on this prospect of just getting Nurkic as a backup for Nemi just to give us a different look and some stability there at the center position. I think a little 3-man big rotation of Kada, Nurkic, and Garza gives us enough little variety there, but you still have to fix the guard situation. And like I said, you need another guy. You need that Trey Murphy type. You need Derek White can't be your 3rd best player. That's just what we have to say. Let's be honest.
I will say there's no optionality. If you bring in Nurkic, there is nothing different. There's a little bit different on offense. You've got Nurkic that can do things differently enough. But defensively, it's the exact same shit 1 through 3. You're running a vanilla drop and you're going to get exposed in the postseason. Period. Point blank. Teams that run pure drop and don't have an option to go elsewhere and do other things are going to get cooked because you're going to pull the big up every time. You're going to attack him on a switch. You're going to force a mismatch. You're going to smoke him. If they don't pull up, if you don't pull them up, there's going to be room in the mid-range. Once you get into the latter part of the conference or you end up in the NBA Finals, teams are going to smoke you in the mid-range, because if the shot's available, it's only a bad analytical shot when a poor mid-range shooter is taking it. If it's got loads of space and the guy shooting it is 40 and above in terms of percentage from that spot, it's a good analytical shot and teams will fuck you up with it. And I think that's been my biggest issue when people are like, go and get a Nurkic, go and get a insert drop defense big man here. There has to be some variance. Now, I've been out here pushing on the Okongwu as the ideal addition, because that then gives you something completely different on both sides of the floor. But I'm not saying don't go and get a big, like a Miles Turner that is traditionally a drop big, but at least Turner's got enough mobility to be able to play up to touch, to be able to jump out on a hedge and recover and do different things to add in optionality defensively, where you're not stuck in one specific system. And then obviously you add in the idea of potentially a Trey Murphy that can play the 2, the 3, or the 4, or you add in the idea of a Colin Sexton and a Kobe White and Anthony Simons, somebody like that. And now you're starting to build around the core that you have and add in some different looks that you can go to on both sides. That would be where I'm at. I'm just waiting to throw that in because that's been a pet peeve of mine. I understand why people want Nurkic. 1, he's injury prone. 2, defensively, he's not giving you anything different than what you already have. And that's been my pushback on slow-footed aging bigs throughout the postseason so far. It's not even the postseason yet, but for us it is. So you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, my only pushback to your pushback, as we're having a push off here, would be that you're assuming that they're going to spend for a Miles Turner type. And even Okongwu, even if it doesn't cost a lot money-wise, it would cost a lot asset-wise. Like, you'd have to give up something to get somebody that good.
Well, I'm under no illusion they're not going to go for Okongwu. That's just a dream, and I've put it out there like it's not happening, but it's a dream. As for Turner, that was just a name I plucked out of the air for an example. But what I'm trying to say is, if you add another straight-up drop big man and you expect different results defensively, you're going to be shit out of luck once we get to the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, totally. And like I said, he's not the answer to all of our problems, but I just prefer a Nurkic and his stability over, say, even a Rob Williams, where obviously if Rob's healthy, the upside's way higher. I just think that the floor is higher with a Nurkic. But those are like the kind of guys we're talking about, because let's face it, we're not going to find a starting center on our budget.
They have the MLE, which I'm expecting them to use on a guard, to be quite frank.
Yep.
They do have the TPE, but the history of the Celtics using the TPE does not bode well for anyone. And I don't think you trade a Jaylen Brown for a big unless it's someone like ridiculously good.
Sengun.
Yeah, and that would be ideal for me. Though I really don't want to run it back with somebody that's just another basic ass drop defender that's going to give you barely any lift on offense and have to pull up with Nimi fouling out every other game in the postseason. I don't know. It's a point of contention for me because it was very clear that the Celtics had no other option defensively against the Sixers when it came to the big position. And it's very clear that if they add another guy, we're going to find ourselves right back in that same spot. Unless you start getting more switchable 1 through 4, which is hard to do. I know I'm a big Peyton Pritchard guy, but it's hard to do when your secondary guard rotation involves a guy that's like 6'1", that if he's switching, you're going to have to start scram switching or you're going to have to start hiding. There's so many intricacies that would come with that, but just straight up vanilla drop, I don't know, man. I felt like that was a huge issue for Boston in the postseason.
It was because we got the best, 4-game stretch of Joel Embiid's playoff career. I don't think, like I said, you can judge what they're going to do next by just that. Like I said, that's where this variance, that's where this randomness is coming into play. Like, there's probably only 4 or 5 guys in the entire league that could have stopped Embiid at that point. The way
it's not just playing. Embiid, right? Okay, you get past Philly, then you're going to have to go up against Karl Anthony Towns. You can't play drop against Karl Anthony Towns. You get past Karl Anthony Towns, you're going up against a Chet Holmgren, Wemby, a Jokic. Even in the East, you've got Evan Mobley, you've got Jarrett Allen. They're going to, and Allen's a bit different because you can play drop against Jarrett Allen. You can play drop against a Nick Claxton. But a Mobley, a Towns, a Wemby, there's so many bigs now that can pull, that will force you out of that drop. And if you've only got that as an option, there has to be something different that you need to do, and that involves player personnel, because the scheme's not going to work if the players within that scheme aren't suited to execute in the way you need them to execute.
And that's one thing coaching wise that, like for the Cats and the Mobleys, that's where I want Tatum at the 5. That has proven to work in the past. He guards those guys extremely well. Obviously, it won't work against Jokic, but we've seen other teams get pretty creative with Jokic. The way they put like Caruso on him, the Thunder do that a lot. The Thunder did that a lot in the Spurs series. They put Caruso on Wemby at times. There's got to be other ways for us to get creative in guarding these bigs. And that is the one thing I will say, we were not creative when we were guarding Embiid. Like in the old days, we would put Marcus Smart on Embiid just for a few plays to get him out of his rhythm. And we just had nobody to do that kind of stuff with.
So this is a really good point, and it kind of, I can backtrack a little here and be like, if you can get a defensive guard that can cross match the way you did with Smart, the way you did with Drew, where you can cross match and take them out of the pick and roll and you can take away advantage creation that way, then maybe you can live with an additional drop defender. But I think it's going to be more difficult to find a guard that can give you that. Again, they're finite resources. Drew Holiday, Alex Caruso, Marcus Smart, he's aging now, and it's, can he stay healthy? Those are some questions that you need to ask. But they're a finite resource where you can reliably cross match them in high pressure situations and know they're going to come up like well. And if you can find one of those, that reduces the need to find a big man that can give you defensive versatility that side, because now you can do other things. You can do that with a wing too. I'm surprised they didn't cross match Brown more, but ideally you want to do it with a guard, because that's where the 1-5 pick and roll usually comes from. Then you've got your X5 getting switched on to however that switch comes. If you're switching on contact, you're switching X5 onto the point guard, and now there's a mismatch, or you're not switching and it gets messy. So having a cross match there, so then X1 switches onto the point guard, and now there's no mismatch there, or X5 is kept on the big and he doesn't have to drop back because you're already up to the level and you're containing the dribble. That's great. I think that Luke Cornett's a really good example here of a big man that's primarily drop, but does excellent in containing dribble drive penetration. He can play up to the level of the screen, and he's mobile enough that he still drops back, but he does it in a way where he takes away a ball handler's ability to generate space off the drive. Then he contains you into a very specific pocket. Find a big like that, I think you're going to be in some really, like, I'm not saying you need a switchable 5. You just need a 5 that can give you more than a very vanilla, I'm dropping deep and this is all I can give you, right? Drummond's going to be a vanilla drop. Nemi was primarily a vanilla drop. He did play up to touch a bit. He was on guys' hips, but he was fucking up every which way. He was jumping into guys. He was getting beat off the bounce and then fouling. It was messy. So I'm saying there are options out there that wouldn't require an Okongwu or a Turner, but all of them are finite resources, and that's what makes it tough.
Yeah, the new CBA, we should actually add to our list of reasons why this 8-year stretch is probably going to keep going with the 8 different champions. Like I said, and it's funny because every time somebody won it, people were like, here's the next dynasty. We thought it in 2024. Hey, we could rattle off 2 or 3 of these. The Thunder thought, hey, we could rattle off 2 or 3 of these before this second apron stuff kicked in. But life comes at you fast. And that's the other part of this, that where if you could just keep Tatum, Brown, and Joe, win 55 games every year, 55 plus games every year, you have it break your way one of the next 3-4 years, you're probably going to win a championship with that core.
Windy said it the other day, right? What are the Celtics batting right now from Eastern Conference Finals to championships? Is it like 40%, 30%? Get to the conference finals, win a championship. Like, they're batting a good. I think the way Windy put it was, if you put this into 3-point percentage, you take it every single time. But the problem is, basketball in terms of a fandom and in terms of a media coverage is very reactionary. It's very, what have you done for me lately? And when you get eliminated, people call for changes. Now, that's if you get eliminated deep in the postseason. If you're eliminated in the first round, changes have to happen. The last time the Celtics got eliminated in the first round, I was talking about this with Mike the other day, was against the Nets, right, when it was like the Kevin Durant-led Nets, and sweeping changes happened. They made some moves. They made sure they improved. And I'm expecting that this time as well, because you can't stand pat on a team that got bounced in the first round in the way that this Celtics team got bounced in the first round period. Now, does that mean they get a big? Do they get a guard? Again, I think we're both under the same illusion or the same belief that there's a chance they use the TPE, but it doesn't feel like it's a fact. It feels like, oh, if they do, it will be a veer away from normality, right? Because we're so used to them just expiring. But it's tough, man. It's tough. I agree with you, though. I'm on the same. I know we kind of had a back and forth about drop defenders, and that's mainly because I'm just so big on this team's identities on defense, and they don't have the necessary pieces to continue building on that identity right now. It's just not in the postseason, at least.
Yeah, I really don't see it as their identity. Like I said, their identity, we'll see what it is with Tatum coming back for a full season back 100%. But yeah, they really do have to find it because, like I said, even in 2024, it was a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. Like they had both, they had balance. And we haven't seen that since, unfortunately, whether you want to blame injuries, whether you want to blame whatever, but it hasn't been the same since.
But Joe preaches defense more than offense all the time. He always leads with defense. Tatum and Brown both lead with defense. Brad was a defense guy. MA was a defense guy. Like the whole culture within this Celtics franchise for the last 10 years or so has been we build our offense based on how we perform defensively. Or at least that's kind of been the through line that they've tried to develop. And it just wasn't there right then in the postseason. And part of that was because they were playing drop. I know that was a big issue for me. It's not as bad as playing drop on Stephen Curry, but obviously we didn't have Ime Udoka. And it's not so much the playing drop, it's the not having an option to go away from it. And like we said, that could be from your guard position, it could be from your wing position, or it could be from finding the big. But good is the enemy of great until you realize that greatness is what's needed. And then good becomes what holds great back. And I think that's where we are right now.
Man, that's so true. The other side of the spectrum would be, though, like, these are the good times. Like, you could basically pencil in the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals with Tatum and Brown healthy. Like, that's some spoiled stuff right there. Like, we are eating good, and we should be enjoying this run more than we are. But every year, it's like, should we break them up? Should we not break them up? Like, this is really special. This is, like, unheard of. Like, Tatum and Brown are already, top 3 in playoff wins, top 4? Like, it's insane, like, where they're at historically. And yes, I know there's only one banner to show for it, but guess what? Pierce, KG, and Ray only have one banner too, and that doesn't take away how much we love and respect those teams either. I can pretty much guarantee if they keep these guys together, we will get another one. But like I said, it's not going to be how we think it's going to go. Like, it's not going to be a Giannis. It's not going to be whatever crazy trade. It's going to have to be whatever can make them, Tatum and Brown, even better. What can you add to them?
I'm not going to say there won't be a crazy trade. I think that you can define a crazy trade in multiple ways. I will say that I agree that it's very unlikely they split Jaylen and Jason. Now, again, I want to caveat this because I've caveated it every time I've said that since the end of the season. That can change depending on how the Celtics approach Jaylen's impending contract extension. Extending Supermaxes is rare. Extending Supermaxes that's already 4 years in the future is ridiculous. And expecting to pay a guy $71 million when you don't know what version of himself he's going to be by the time that contract starts is a recipe for disaster. Now, if Brown understands that and is willing to wait for that extension a year or two, in which time he will actually get more money on that extension, then great. If he's not and he wants it this year and Brad says no, that might change the trajectory of things a little bit. Now, obviously, that's a lot of if, buts, and maybes, and it's all conjecture at this point, but that can change the current trajectory of the team. Other than that, if everything there goes smoothly, I don't see them breaking this team up. But a big trade for me or a crazy trade would be, and I'm just throwing names out. Please don't quote me on these. It's just using names as examples. You swing for a Dyson Daniels. Somebody like that would be, to me, that's a crazy trade because I'm like, dude, do you understand the level of improvement you've just added with one guy and you've kept your course? So I'm like, but I get what you're saying. Don't expect a Giannis. No one's about to trade Brown for fucking 57 million-year-old LeBron James tomorrow. That shit's not happening.
I will add a caveat, though. If Brown really wants his own team, it's the ball's in his court. All he has to do is imply to Brad that, hey, I liked being the number one guy. and obviously that can't happen here, then everything's out the window that we just said, and you're going to have to break them up. But if it is what keeps Brown happy as the number 2 is giving him that extension, then that's up to Brad to make that decision and be like, hey, we'll extend you, but you understand, like, this is a partnership. You and Tatum are the partnership. It's not your show. But like I said, Brown could blow that
They
up any
should
minute.
not be extending Brown this summer, period. I'm genuinely big on that. You don't pay a guy $71 million a year for 2 years, fucking 4 years away when you don't even know what version of himself he's going to be. That's ridiculous to me. So I'm like point blank against it. I think they should extend Brown in a year or two, not now. I don't know if you disagree.
I get it, but I just think that's just the way business is done now. You got to keep your stars happy. But if you aren't going to trade him, what does it hurt doing it this early, just as an offering to be like, hey, we're on the same page?
Fuck that. He's got knee tendonitis. He's had knee tendonitis for a few years now. You're trying to pay a guy that's built off explosiveness 3 to 4 years away. Fair enough, Booker got it, but Booker doesn't. Booker is the franchise guy. That's like saying Tatum got it. Tatum is the franchise guy.
That's the
Giannis
thing.
got
A year
it.
from now, Tatum will get it. So if Brown doesn't have it by then, we're going to have a problem. So it's like you kind of do it to avoid the future issues.
Yeah, fuck that. I'm not with that. You wait and see. I just think that I'm not paying you for a car that you're driving for 3 more years before I get to see what condition it's in, but I've already parted with the money. So either way, whatever condition that car's in, I have to accept. And I know that we're talking about human beings, it's completely different. And we're talking about elite athletes that take great care of their body. And I'm not saying that Brown doesn't, but the idea is the same, right? There's going to be at least 200 odd games more mileage on Brown's body by the time that 71 million kicks in. And we just saw how quickly shit can change with Tatum getting hurt. I'm against paying guys so far into the future. And that's not a Jaylen Brown thing. That's just I'm against paying guys so far into the future.
It's got to be the hardest part of Brad's job, because keeping these egos in check and happy, because honestly, you handle this negotiation poorly, and you're ruined. There's no going back. We saw that with Gordon Hayward in Utah. That's the number one reason he left. He wanted the extension early. They said, no, we're going to wait and see. He ends up blowing up, becoming all NBA. Fuck you. I'm out of here.
It's tough, man. It's tough. With that being said, everybody, drop a comment. I think me and Billy went back and forwards here. I actually think that there's a good middle ground between what both of us are saying that works out. And would you extend Jaylen Brown this summer? I think that's the biggest contention point right now. Would you extend Jaylen Brown this summer? While you're there, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Head over to the newsletter and subscribe there, and show Billy some love over on Letterboxd. Billy, what's the app?
CBO041 over on Letterboxd, man. Everybody's seen Obsession, but if you haven't seen it yet, if you're the one person that hasn't yet, it's the biggest movie in the world right now. Go see it.
I haven't seen it. Everybody, deuces.